What's up, everyone? I'm Mitch with Principia Fitness, and here's how we're tackling 2021. So in 2021, we want to make sure that our program lines up with everybody's needs and wants as best as possible. So here's the way it's going to work. We're going to start with April, May, because this is the part that I think everybody wants to talk about most. This is going to be our shred season. All right, so we're going to call it shred. And then for the workouts, you're going to see more endurance-based workouts, less intensity. Why? Because in order to lose fat best, you can't be in too stressful of a state. If you're in too stressful of a state, your body wants to hang on to things, right? Because its cortisol levels are usually too high, right? So with that in mind, that's how the programming is going to be relatively structured. Now, that's not where all the magic really happens, because we know nutrition is where that really happens in. So as far as the diet during this time, most of us, with the rare exceptions, will be in a deficit. All right, so calorie deficit during this time to elicit the response that we want. Get shredded. Why in April and May? Because June, July, August, that's bikini season, right? So all of us guys can look great in bikinis if we do this shred season. All right, going out of shred season, we're going to go into June and July. In June and July, we're going to call this, we'll call it longevity, but we're going to get into it a little bit more. Here's what we want in June and July. We're busy. The lifestyle is let's go have fun outside. Let's not spend so much time in the gym because there's fun things to be had outside the gym. So what we want to do is make sure that the workouts aren't taking so much intensity that you guys are drained. And in fact, we're going to have the opposite almost. We want to make sure your joints are super healthy to support your outdoor activities, but also get you prepared to go into more intense training throughout the year. So this is joint prep, right? Now, the way the workouts might look like is a lot of carrying objects that are heavy, right? So it doesn't mean that you're not ever lifting things heavy. It doesn't mean you're never doing a Metcon or anything like that. It just means that there's going to be more of a bias towards taking care of your joints, doing more tempo work as well, right? So that's what the workouts might start shifting towards in a biased way. Again, not solely, don't get caught up in it, right? Diet-wise here, this is where people can vary a little bit into what their goals are, but we just did 8 weeks of deficit. And the thing we've been preaching to people about nutrition is if you're going long-term deficit, you're creating potential hormonal damage for the rest of your life that you're going to have to be trying to overcome. So what we want to make sure is that with the phases of training, your diet phases are appropriate as well. So this becomes a maintenance phase, all right, for most people, right? Now, if we need to lose a significant amount of weight, we might continue with deficit, but that's the outliers, right? Or if we're working specifically with an individual, that individual may have a different timeline that they're doing things. But generally speaking, this is how we're approaching 2021. Okay, so everybody goes into maintenance mode. They're eating the right amount of calories, and they should be working on quality to keep inflammation down so that the work that we're doing here is really working. So this is when we do more vegetables, and we really just try to make sure we're getting just the right amount and not too much, not too little, right? So that all this work can be doing really effective things for our joints, for our muscle tissue, all that stuff. From here, we're going to go into August and September. We're going to go gains, baby, right? August, September, it's not the kind of gains in strength that you're looking for. It's the gains in muscle. So this is where we're going to make sure that we're building muscle. So the workouts will influence building muscle. You'll see a little bit higher intensity in these usually. Not super high intensity, but a little bit higher intensity. And you'll see time under tension increase. So this is more about time under tension so that we can elicit a hypertrophy or growth of muscle. All right? That is kind of the way the programming will be biasing. Right? Again, it doesn't mean there's no Metcons, but there's still not a ton of them, right? Diet during this phase, depending on person. You're either going to go maintenance or you can go surplus here. That really depends on the person, right? People who struggle at gaining muscle, who have a already pretty lean composition, should be looking towards a surplus at this time. All right? People who struggle with their diet and struggle with weight loss should be in maintenance mode. Okay? So this gives us plenty of time to make sure our hormones are supported. From here, we go into strength. In the strength season, October, November, is an 8-week cycle where we're focused on weight, right? Being able to lift heavy things. So you'll see more heavy things programmed, more squatting, more squat cleans, more things like that, where we're going to try to elicit more strength now that we have the muscle to support it. All right? So that is the way we're going to handle October, November. That's the workout style. Biasing, more heavy stuff. Still not a ton of metconning. Right? Now, when I say not a ton, I mean like 2 times a week or less of metconning. Right? That's plenty for most people anyway, because what we know when we start doing metcons every day is eventually you burn out and you crash and burn. It's not just a little burnout. All right? So we want to make sure that we spend enough time focusing on strength and skill in this time frame. So this is when we're also working on those gymnastic skills that are incredibly evasive at achieving. The diet during this phase needs to be maintenance or surplus again. All right? So 8 weeks here, 8 weeks here, 8 weeks here, 8 weeks here. You kind of get the idea. Maintenance or surplus during this long phase gives us plenty of time to make sure our body's in the healthiest state it could possibly be. Come December and January, those are technically the same phase, but because of the way a calendar works, they're on different ends here. Right? December is going to be where we are starting to build our capacity. Okay? So the training will start building capacity. I like to just call it CrossFit the way everybody thinks they understand CrossFit right now. This is December, so you'll basically start seeing more metcons, 3-4 times a week, something like that, while continuing strength, right? We don't eliminate that completely while continuing our muscle building, right? This is the really well-balanced general physical preparedness that we all know and love, right? During this time, your diet will either be deficit, or maintenance. All right? So deficit or maintenance, depending on the person. You're in a deficit if you have some weight that you need to get rid of before we go into our performance season. All right? So this is where you guys will be eating less calories if you're working on that. Otherwise, if you're not working on that, maintenance mode so that you get the most out of training is the way that we want you to approach it. That continues on through January, so this is the same thing in January. Come February, March, this is typically where the CrossFit Open is, and we like to participate in the Open. We use that season as a season of testing performance, right? It is not a season to qualify for the games or anything like that, but it is a good time to, like, we've worked so hard all year, let's test where we're at, right? So in this, the workouts will be testing, and they'll probably have more intensity during this phase. Because of the nature of that phase, the more intensity, the testing, that we want you to show up and see if we can push this today, right? All within the realms of quality, of course. This means that the diet needs to ensure that we can come back and do that every day. That's going to require maintenance mode. So then everybody goes into maintenance mode, all right? So you've got, throughout a year, you have 8 weeks of maintenance mode here, 8 weeks of deficit, maintenance or surplus, deficit or maintenance, right? So in the year, we're balancing the ability to ensure hormonal health. We're also making sure that our physique on the timeline is right where we want it to be. When you go into a muscle gain phase at the end of summer, when you're still kind of in that bikini season, muscles actually tend to pop more. So you'll actually be looking more lean, especially during the early parts of that stage, right? So it's no coincidence where we place anything, right? It's all done for a reason, right? So this is how we want 2021 to go. This is how we're going to program it for the general population as far as like what we're doing in the workouts that everybody does. Individuals will obviously have some outliers and things like that. People who are training for anything specific might have different approach, but generally speaking, this is how we're approaching 2021. If you guys have questions, send them my way. If you guys are interested in talking more about this with me and you're not a member yet, please reach out. Thanks.